Hey, Timmy, I'm BS MPA, West Coast targeted individual, 15 fucking years. Um, 3 years in aware targeted individual of that time seems unbelievable, but that's true. I thought it was just only crazy for a lot of this of my life. Naive, innocent, didn't know how really wicked the world was, but talking or listening to testimony from other targeted individuals about the perpetrator side of this, as we understand, it's both mental illness and not just in my head. I'm going to turn this jamming radio that I have going on with a baby monitor to try and localize some of the sound weaponry that they use against TIs day in, day out. So I'm sitting around talking shit with my few word perps, reading on the Drudge Report. They're talking about the Internet of Thoughts or something like that. That happened to me 15 years ago. Ray Kurzweil, talking about Internet of Thought stuff some time ago. Again, happened to me 15 years ago. Synthetic telepathy is torture. It's in the wrong hands. I don't see a lot of redeeming qualities about it, but then again, I've been tortured by it for 15 years. They've faked reptilians to get me in fight with reptilians. If they exist or not, they probably still do. They faked ethnic groups of people that they're doing the perpetrating wanted to get in fights so that people of ethnic groups would look bad around me. The fake people problem has perversed the incentives for people to show up in targeted individual situations as electromagnetic form perpetrators as people they want to get hated on. It seems bizarre, but that's some of the observed sort of truth as I know it. Something else I did a video about being able to spot fake people in front of you in 3D. I've had variations on the quality of the deception, like more like two-dimensional skinwalker types, indistinguishable from any other human, like you would see me on this video, but out in public. Like my parents have been faked by electromagnetic form perpetrators, and Kevin's speculation is that just needs to be done with geography or location, satellite, and the infrastructure of the electromagnetic field as it exists to be able to fake a person around you. But shuffling feet problems, over animation, and that's the RNM or otherwise crowd observing my brain every day. Maybe a new group switched over in 2013. It's a little hard to tell, but it's been like 12 or 1300 perps. But they said they're trying to work on that so that you won't be able to tell with the over animation that it's an EMF perp whose body is sunk in another location and they're faking a human form in front of you. But I've seen that like over animation. It's hard. I mean, if you saw it with me, and I'd be like, that's an EMF perp. But in using this fake people technology, and I've seen it a lot over the last 3 years of really intense live psychological operations. For me as a TI, it's degraded all the rest of humanity at the same in use of that, because the EMF perp gang AI, all that shit in front of your eyes, like in a war similar, except I'm not seeing them blood and gutty. Like they're, how do I explain this where it's going to make sense to like other TI may understand what I'm saying even already in this, but to non-TI or fuck what perps think, but by faking human form like that, it cheapens. And I'm getting my whole chakra system has been abused by EMF perps and other systems of Satanism for 15 years. And then on top of that, in the last 3 years, they fake the form of people around me for terrorism. It's far worse than LARPing for Satan. And it's degraded for me, like it's it's given me like sort of a poisoned worldview, at least for a time, that I try to deprogram from. And I'm also trying to deprogram from a really rendered attempt at psychological operations for faking like Jehovah's Witness prophecy, like the end of the physical world thought a little past just the end of the physical world. Got some goos up in the mix for a correct fifth interpretation of the single word use of apocalypse or Armageddon. I get those mixed up. But yeah, I'm in the nut house. I'll probably try and stretch this out and do a longer video that maybe my R&M crowd will observe, even out my eyeballs. Maybe a few people recorded on YouTube, and there would be tremendous incentive for them to hack in to make sure it looked like even fewer people saw it. But my TI torture began 15 years ago in my dorm at the U of O. Started hearing voices, and it's never stopped. Thought it was mental illness only for so many years. Took medications that would never work, just caused more health problems. And the perp in me the whole time knew that. Shit, that's more suffering that they can add to their design torture of you every day. Talking to a young woman named Olivia, I think from, she's like 10 years younger than me. Beautiful. Somebody's daughter in Arizona, and she's just getting perp. She's like 2 months maybe into her torture. My youth was stolen from me, consumed for 15 years ago, or from 15 years ago. Unless they take her off the targeted individual list, she's going to be terrorized probably for the rest of her days, like I expect for me and any other TI. I've come across, I can't recall any in memory of any successful TI that really had all this shit stop. It's a slow genocide. So yeah, I get rendered into saying things and having perspectives that I normally never would have. But this is a failed Zugstrig, a failed faked Mormon something with me to like mask or cover all of their Satanism. And an example of their Satanism is like Kevin Christian today has uncovered like coding that you would see, like, you know, a cell phone taking a picture of an image to get an authenticator onto your cell phone. But it's like this band of similarly structured, like recognizable computer coding that he found on like a cell phone or something like that, that is, I think, related to him describing these links that the gang stalkers have to broadcasting. Like he explained on a YouTube video that I watched recently how they do that and sort of over the top of the regular internet, even on web pages. And one of my perps was like, that's what we tried to do or did with your other web page. I shut down a web page myself and restarted my new one that a few people reach every once in a while, trying to get this targeted individual information out. I have a map on Google Maps and Facebook where I'm at, detailing the large long-term plans of people that want to stop getting tortured and stop incarnating to get out the black Swiss cheese holes. I take a risk associating that with my geography. And so these perps, because they're not in their real bodies, can experience pain of death, is my understanding. And in few words, they didn't want to tell me this, but at the same time sort of disclosed it at the same time. Like if you're at an EMF perp body and it's walking down the street out in front of my nut house here, and somebody comes by and hits you in a car, like your consciousness is in that electromagnetic being, but your real body is sunk out catatonic in another machine, like Kevin Christian describes of Howard's circle. So if the EMF body gets killed or whatnot, you feel the pain of death, but then you just wake up in your real human body in another location. So that's how, yeah, so they, unless you get to the real body, like you're not going to be able to kill these perps, and they can sit around you, or, you know, just get your location and perp right into your head. Like Kevin Christian and I are describing, and he's doing an excellent job being able to do interviews for other targeted individuals, describing their plight and their pain 24 hours a day. And Kevin describing how, you know, another TI is talking about how they get sunk on those machines and they get like addicted to it and they never want to get off and they don't sleep anymore. And they've called that in few word use to deceive hibernation. And they did that to, they told me they were doing that to me out in Redmond, Oregon, where another war crime was committed, capital crime intent, crimes against creation. They had Billy, or a EMF perpetrator impersonating Billy, my roommate at the time, point out into the sun, like I'm looking out into the sun right now behind this computer monitor, and he pointed out, he's like, look, and there was 2 suns in the sky for access to some of the criminal surveillance groups, access to some of the government toys they may have like muscled through and got in the let's have the CIA butt fuck the FBI and call it the Patriot Act and ruin the human condition around the clock. I mean, there's a lot of ways to describe this, and I'm pretty colorful with language. But another way to look at this is like, so I'm a TI. My whole fucking chakra system has been shredded for 15 years. Satanic repeaters and suggesters every fucking day. Like the artwork in times past of people with damage to their chakra area is concepts applied with everything that's fucking happened to me for 15 fucking years because of synthetic telepathy torture, remote neural monitoring, voice to skull, perpetrating, and Satanism. The whole thing. Shredded. And then the spinal cord, like every point has been attacked in gang stalking, systematically, scientifically. Some of the stuff is frustratingly simple, like satanic repeaters and suggesters. Just put that on a bot in somebody's head for 15 years. Make you want to die. So a man 2019 years ago had his chakra system shredded, taught for 3 years, and his government got him in his 30s in efforts to, among other things, make sure nobody ever had to get their fucking chakra system shredded again. And by Blackwater estimates out of somebody who jumped out of the perp end of Seattle, I have 1.5 million shredded chakras in the US alone out of 247 million Americans. And don't get wrapped up in the fucking details. You know, 1 million, 500,000, 20,000 is too much. When you look at it like that, what the Christian Savior did to preserve and guide 2019 years ago is being totally ignored by the FBI fusion centers, the CIA, the police state apparatus, and this covert Satanism. On the upside, today, Kevin Christian, or yesterday, published, forgive me if I'm repeating this, the band of computer coding that you would use to have a cell phone recognize an image on a authenticator. You found it on a cell phone, and it's some of the coding that they use for this falsifying reality around us, making fake cops when they're really EMF perps in other locations, shit like that. Oppressive, repressive, obfuscating, the overlap between the torture of the human condition and the TI life and like Hollywood or like shit. I mean, I can't watch television anymore because they make it so it talks directly to me. There's shit about the weaponization of like Hollywood and the overlap of the human condition exploited by the TI that is deceived in plain sight. Like concepts applied in reality. Every one of those TIs getting, let's go back. Okay. I'll leave this video at 15 minutes with this thought. And then, you know, if you get a chance to watch this video, think about it yourself. Jesus, 2019 years ago, had his chakra system shredded so that, among other things, people wouldn't have to have their chakra system shredded in these matters that every TI endures. Concepts applied qualitatively and quantitatively as I. And there's 1.5 million of us in the US alone out of like 247 right now. Covertly, some of this is coming to light. That's unacceptable. But think about it, discuss it. I mean, like that's, if you're a TI, like, and I'm talking to you and I'm like, yeah, my chakra system's shredded too. Like they'll know what I'm talking about because it's happened to them and be like, Jesus, died, and was tortured and shit like that some 2019 years ago, specifically, so that wouldn't happen to any of us. And, I have few word use repeaters in my head of perpetrators saying, their few word use to mislead them version of God is just a felon in a slight of gravity of the crimes against humanity, war crimes, crimes against creation, and crimes against Jesus from 2019 years ago directly, because he didn't want to have shredded chakras for the next ever. So I'm not a theologian, and in psychological operations, they really prey on people who've studied the Bible, because they studied it too, like an almost algorithmic precision, just to torture people. But yeah, 1.9 million shredded chakra systems. And Kevin Christian's doing an excellent job articulating this and helping people get past the illusion of it and the propaganda of it, and talk about the nuts and bolts of it, so they can defend their consciousness itself better every fucking day. I mean, my perps could have Bigfoot in the fucking backyard. Kevin's had them so they're like firemen, going down his curtains. When I was out in Redmond, I was writing about something related to the continent of India, and one of them popped up as like a Indian kid from the continent of India as an EMF perp in my domicile and other deception tech applications. But yeah, you're looking at, if I don't look so pretty, looking at 15 years of POW status of mind, body, and they want my soul. Targeted individual torture, directly state authority, those charts and graphs of like this shit getting coordinated through like DHS and other, I've had so many perped psych facilities in the last 3 years that I've attended all over the West. It's not even funny, or it wouldn't be funny. That's the wrong descriptor, but they will take over a whole hospital if I show up. They took over Portland State more or less when I showed up. Some people may have experienced that pain of death thing that I think I maybe talked about, where they get killed in their EMF form and then they wake up in their real body in some other locations. That was part of it, sort of covertly. So the sun is setting outside in the west. I'm facing the west coast, the Pacific in Oregon. That's what you're seeing across my face. Directly behind me, as east as you can go, all the way to the Atlantic coast, there's 1.5 million of me out of 247 million roughly Americans with unconstitutional, war criminal, crimes against humanity, crimes against creation, crimes against Jesus from 2019 years ago. Buddha would be pissed. Torture every day, and they torture us at night, going on 24/7 by perpetrators and other entities really into satanic science and destroying the human condition for no good reason. I hope that's a little bit more clear. As the sun sets in the west on my eyeballs, behind me, Satan, shredding the chakras of at least 1.5 million Americans, more or less just like me, all the way to the other coast, all the time. It's not right. Understatement.